A new McDonald's on Capitol Hill, a chill or sweet Alexa, and cut to the chase. But first, the Seattle Times ran a fun piece this week suggesting 3 ways to go out in Seattle as an introvert. They mentioned a silent book club and craft nights. And I want to know, Chase Hutchinson, critic and journalist at the Seattle Times, contributor to KOW, what is an introverted or solo activity you like to do? And you are not allowed to say movies.
Nice, Jane. Nice, Jane. Love this.
I was immediately going to say that because I do think seeing
you
movies
can't say
alone
movies.
is good. I'll say a nice walk in the park. I did that recently before I met up with Liam at the Beacon Cinema because I got there early. And I just went on a nice walk in the park.
That's really lovely.
Slowed down. It was nice.
And for folks who haven't already figured it out, we also have creative producer Liam Billingham here.
Can't
Liam,
keep quiet during the intro.
what is your favorite introverted or solo activity to do? And you also can't say going to a movie.
I actually wasn't going to. So there,
Good.
Jane.
There.
So I, back when we lived before I lived in Seattle, I would leave work at 5 and pick my daughter up at 6. That was the latest I could pick her up. And I used to jump on the train, get really close to her daycare, sit in a bar, drink a beer, and read a book, or going for a long run. Those are my two answers. But I don't really do that anymore, sadly. So
solid choices. I mean, there is, as this piece mentioned, these silent book clubs. So you could go drink a little beer in quiet.
A few small beers. Yeah, I could do that. That would be good.
Yes. Well, moving on to some Seattle news. The Seattle Times reports that an application has been filed to turn the old Rite Aid space in Capitol Hill into a McDonald's.
Yes.
Are you excited about this, Liam? Do you love McDonald's?
I actually haven't been to McDonald's in a really long time. But no, I'm not that excited. But I just thought I'd throw a little wrench into the works.
I didn't know if we had like a big McDonald's fan or anything. Chase,
really.
what do you think of this? Is this a good proposal?
I am just a little skeptical of how it feels like so much of these buildings in Seattle are feeling like fast food is the big thing that's coming in. And I'd be curious about a bigger like trend piece about that, if that's just something that feels anecdotal or if there's any sort of greater like underlying reality to what feels like to me a lot of fast food places popping up that we didn't normally have many of, if at all. We're going to get potentially In-N-Out. There was the one chicken place that's name I'm forgetting. Apologies to everyone who likes
Raising Cane's.
Raising Cane's. And I guess better to have something there than nothing at all. But I don't know. I would love to see potential other things coming in too, but it's hard to do that.
Wait, what are the In-N-Out rumors? Because I have not heard anything about that, and I would absolutely lose my mind. If you had said In-N-Out is moving into the Rite Aid instead of McDonald's, I'd be like, sure, I am bringing my little camp chair and just camping out there now.
I think it already opened. It was at Ridgefield last August.
Oh, I think that was further south.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not exactly the same, but it does feel like there's a pretty consistent like increase of anytime there's a big headline of something new is coming, it's a fast food place. And so maybe this is because I grew up in a small town and didn't have fast food that much. I just have no nostalgia or any sort of, oh, yay, hooray. Like, what do they serve at McDonald's anymore? I don't remember. Do they still have the Big Mac?
I'm pretty sure they still have the Big Mac. It has been years since I've hit up a McDonald's, and I feel like that's usually a road trip thing for me. But I do wonder, Chase, if you're onto something here, at least in terms of what we hear about opening in a lot of these places. I imagine that these giant companies have a very robust PR and marketing team that can push out announcements about this. But also there's a very real question of who can afford to move into these enormous spaces. So that Rite Aid space was 5,000 square feet.
Whoa.
And the application suggests that it might cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $750,000 to renovate that space from being a Rite Aid to a McDonald's. As you can probably guess, they have pretty different needs as spaces. I'm curious what you all think this might do for the neighborhood. So if you aren't familiar with that spot, it's right next to light rail. It's one of the spaces, actually, that had a Hot Rat Summer is Eternal is forever sign on the old marquee for a little bit. It's kind of in the middle of everything. And the thing that sticks out to me is that Dick's is already right there.
Yeah, I don't think in the war between McDonald's and Dick's that there's going to be a huge McDonald's win. I could be wrong if there's a huge group of Seattle McDonald's lovers. But yeah, if there's already kind of your go-to burger place.
Should we give them your email address, Chase, so
yeah,
they can reach out to
I
you?
get a huge wave of McDonald's lovers. I don't know. If people really like McDonald's, if they want to get, I'm trying to even remember, a McFlurry. Is that still a thing?
Oh, those are good. Those are good.
Those can be good.
I used to get those after soccer practice as a kid.
I feel like that is also a core memory I have at one point. I think that the interesting thing I think about is there were a lot of stories last year about how fast food restaurants were becoming like more expensive and losing a lot of that low income user base or customer base. And so it's interesting to think like, oh, the fast food of yesterday is not really something that is affordable in the same way, because no one was going to McDonald's thinking this is the healthiest thing I'm ever going to eat.
Well, and the options are so much better for that now. They are more expensive, but like I don't think people are eating at McDonald's as the rate that they were when like I was a kid in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yes, because they don't have the play places. If they turn that 5,000 square feet into a play place,
Well, did they get rid of those play places because they're gross? Because, like, I know Chuck E. Cheese got rid of the ball pits in most places because of just, like, everyone getting, pardon me, diarrhea in those things. But, like, I think that a lot of that stuff has, like, the experiential, if you want to call it that, experience of going to a McDonald's or something has kind of gone away. And you have, like, you have In-N-Out, you have Shake Shack, you have all these better options.
I do think people are also a little wary of McDonald's here in Seattle. I've already heard people grumbling about the other urban McDonald's at 3rd and Pine, that I feel like there's a comparison happening there that may or may not be fair for this new location.
What was the comparison?
I think just the idea that people might use it as a spot to be gathering.
Yeah, when I
Doing,
first
like,
came here,
burnouts?
before I moved, I walked past that one. Our hotel that we were staying at, when we came just to like look around, was right near that, and I was like, "Wow, that's a spot." Like, there's a lot of people congregating there. It feels like this would be a hellish location to work at if you were a McDonald's employee.
Yeah, I feel like it's really ebbed and flowed in terms of people trying to have more police presence in that space, but I think it just ends up being a spot where people gather because it's right on the bus line and it's kind of centrally located, and there are a lot of services and resources that you can find downtown.
Is that spot like significant? Like that the 3rd and Pine, is it a location that like has a history or anything like that?
I feel like it's gotten its current history over the last decade or so. Like in the time that I have lived in Seattle, it has kind of always been like that. I think that the issues there have gotten worse as homelessness has gotten worse in Seattle. But I was actually looking at Post Alley's blog, and they wrote about the history of 3rd and Pine. So in the 20s, it was the fancy part of town. There was a streetcar stop there. There was like a big fancy department store, a big fancy hotel. And when McDonald's opened there in 1979, it was a fancy thing. Like, it was the first McDonald's to open in downtown. People were really excited about it. A lot of the local businesses down there were really excited that that might draw people downtown.
It was still shiny then, right?
It was
like
still shiny then.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to reimagine that spot as a desirable corner where people were looking forward to going there. And yeah, I think that has definitely changed over the last few decades.
So what you're saying is there's a McDonald's curse.
Oh, the classic
It comes
McDonald's
in
curse,
and you're
yeah.
like, ah, wonderful. But then suddenly things take a turn.
We'll see.
The curse of the Hamburglar.
Yeah. I actually walked by that intersection a few days ago, and it felt fine. I feel like people grumble about it a lot, and I don't want to downplay the fact that there definitely has been violence at that corner over the years, stabbings, gunfights. But it also, when I was on that same walk, I walked by the now empty Ross building, and I was talking with our Prince of Social Media, Ben Keenan. Ben was like, wouldn't it be cool if that space opened up as apartments? Like, I know it's not zoned for that. I'm curious, what would you all want to see in this huge space instead? Because I feel like we've got this
You can't say a
problem
movie
in
theater.
the city right now where we have these large vacant spaces, like the Starbucks Reserve building on the hill, also empty. And I'm wondering, I think but there are a couple of good stories. So the old Bath & Beyond is now an art center. And the old QFC on the hill is now the Quality Flea Center, the punk rock flea market. If you all haven't been, it's great. So what do you all want to see in that space instead, if not a McDonald's?
I would love to see more art spaces. I think the examples you mentioned are pretty great examples of bringing back those third spaces that we're losing, and ideally making them accessible to the public too, because you don't want to have it be that as more and more go away, they become more and more exclusive. So ideally, I would love to see an art space accessible to everybody.
Shocked you didn't say movie theater, but maybe
I was
that's what
going
that would
to.
be.
That's under the banner of an art space.
Yeah,
That's true, it
5,000
is.
square feet, you could get, what, a couple of little theaters in there?
Or a big IMAX.
Oh!
Which we're going to need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I feel like in the way that these spaces have kind of like what malls do now, where they become places you can like do an activity or an event or create community somehow, even if it is like a pay-to-play kind of thing. Like something that brings people together and feels like accessible would be great, as opposed to just like a... And you know what? If there's going to be a McDonald's, have a play place. Like at least a place for kids to like, you know...
Have a
goof off.
disgusting ball pit.
Yeah, with the stomach problems afterwards. It sounds great.
Jeez.
Yeah, get your little Big Mac, get in the ball pit, and good luck after that.
Good luck, parents.
Go with God.
Yeah.
May God have mercy on your
God
soul.
has no place in a ball pit at McDonald's.
All right, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about Alexa's new personality. On Wednesday, Amazon announced that it was adding new personality settings for Alexa, their digital voice assistant. Do either of you use Alexa or like any other voice assistant like Siri?
Siri to play music in my car so I don't have to push a bunch of buttons. And my children like make me a DJ. Play more K-pop Demon Hunters. So I use it for that essentially. But other than that, no.
I remember when Siri was first a thing and there was some sort of like novelty to it. I still have this vivid memory of like trying to use it to set like a calendar update and it just completely having no idea how to do it. And I haven't used it probably in more than a decade.
Okay, so you all are not the target audience for this, unfortunately. But Amazon in their announcement did include examples of what these new voice assistant personalities might be like. So now there are 3 new options. You get Chill Alexa, Sweet Alexa, or Brief Alexa.
Oh.
And I'll give you all the examples. You can actually go on Amazon's website and hear very short clips of each of these personalities. But they
hilariously listed on SoundCloud. It's like, hey, check out our SoundCloud.
Check out Amazon's
drop your
SoundCloud.
SoundCloud in the notes for Amazon.
I'm surprised that with as big a company Amazon is, that they don't have their own sound player. But, you know,
Amazon Music was
the
right
wheel?
there. Exactly.
Yes. So they prompted Alexa by asking, Alexa, how's it going? The Chill Alexa says, life's treating me well, all systems are zen, and the digital universe is spinning in harmony. And Sweet Alexa says, absolutely fantastic. I'm radiating pure joy and ready to make your day incredibly amazing. And Brief Alexa simply says, operating efficiently.
Whoa. I like Brief Alexa. She gets to the point.
I feel like I'm going to start saying operating efficiently when people ask me how I'm doing. But they describe Brief Alexa, of course, as no small talk, no extra conversation. Sweet Alexa is supposed to be like your biggest cheerleader, celebrates your wins, offers encouragement, transforms everyday moments into opportunities for positivity. Couldn't be me, so sorry. And Chill Alexa is easygoing, quote, like chatting with a laid-back friend. And what struck me about this is that The way that you tell your Alexa which of these you want is you literally just say, Alexa, change your personality style.
The dream. This is
Really?
it's all coming through and happening for us. We could just control every aspect of our interactions all the time.
Yeah. I mean, is it the dream?
I was going to say, to me, it feels a little nightmarish. With all respect to folks that want to use this, the thing that was just bouncing around my head while you were talking there, Jane, was a concept introduced by the late Washington author Frank Herbert in Dune, and that's the Butlerian Jihad, which is the war against computers. This is making me ready to take up arms.
Frank Herbert, historically very normal guy, too. So that's a good... I'm going to push back a little bit because as we've been talking about it, I think I actually do use the Siri a little bit more, and I'll give you like a very clear example of how it's helpful to me, which is like I'm constantly bouncing around doing a million things with kids, with my life, having reminders, and I'm someone who suffers from like pretty strong ADHD, and all the medication in the world, can only do so much. I sound like I take 400 milligrams every day. But one thing that's really helpful is I'll have to, I got to do the laundry, and I'll use the Siri to quickly set a timer or a reminder, and like that is a great way to outsource a tricky aspect of life without having to go into the app and do 4 steps, because also, as we all know, the second you open the phone, suddenly you're like, I have an Instagram notification. Someone's yelling at me about my opinions about singles on Instagram or whatever. So it's nice to have that. And I also think, I view those kind of options as kind of fun because I think I'm old enough to recognize the world where, this is just a computer. The problem is the people who, use it for companionship or something like that, where they, can't, what's the term? It's like the uncanny valley for me is still very clear. And so it's kind of just like a useful tool to manage something that's difficult for me. But if you're buying into it as a person, then you're in trouble.
If you are just using it as a tool, which I mean, I'm saying you, Liam, are using it as a tool. And I have many friends who do the same thing. In fact, friends with ADHD who are like, it is great for setting a timer if
Totally.
I'm cooking something or have a load of laundry and I need to switch it over. That is a great way to not get sucked into your phone. I mean, if the idea is that we are trying to use them as assistants, why do we need them to have a personality like this then? It feels like this is crossing over for me into we expect this to be an uncanny valley companion.
Well, didn't we talk about friction maxing once? And this is the opposite of that, right?
Do you know that term, Chase?
I do know that term, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
for people who don't know, the idea is that friction is the thing that makes life, that you need to encounter some difficulties sometimes to feel like a person.
I always think of the Kurt Vonnegut, why don't you buy a book of stamps story? His wife asks him, why didn't you just buy a book of stamps? And he's like, because if I buy a book of stamps, then I can't go to the post office and I can't eavesdrop on a conversation. And I can't
see a smiling baby.
See a smiling baby, right? And be out in the world and experience stuff.
I hadn't heard that one, but that's real.
It's kind of a classic. And I think in a way it's sort of anti-tech in a very, very positive way. But yeah, I do think that this edition of the voice kind of yes, that sounds great is definitely a way to reduce people's tension and dealing with these experiences. And I worry it's going to become instead of automated, when you call customer service, you're going to get this customized moody version of Alexa that I didn't understand, or I'm curious to see how this affects things where we have to interact with a bot.
Yeah. It also has me thinking about the fact that Alexa and so many of these digital assistants have feminine voices. And a professor at the University of Technology, Sydney, wrote this piece in The Conversation a few weeks ago about how that's just not a coincidence. Most of these assistants are feminine voices because people find it easier to ask a woman to do stuff for them. And she writes, these tools are products of human choices, and those choices perpetuate a world where women, real or virtual, are cast as subservient, submissive, or silent. And she gets into this aspect of things that I had not even considered, which is that there's actually a fair amount of evidence out there that people abuse or harass these bots on a regular basis. And she writes, these interactions mirror and reinforce real world misogyny, teaching users that commanding, insulting, and sexualizing her, in quotes, is acceptable. When abuse becomes routine in digital spaces, we must seriously consider the risk that it will spill into offline behavior. She also points out, and I did not hear about this, I don't know if you all did, that in 2015, when IBM launched Watson, when Watson was being used for oncology diagnoses to help process medical data, that Watson had a male voice. And this professor writes, the message is clear: women serve and men instruct. And I mean, there's just something that sits with me so weirdly in thinking about, not only do we have Alexa here doing everything for you, but it's like you can make Alexa be really sweet if that's what you need to hear.
And the thing I was going to say, the story that was popping to my head was last year when ChatGPT was using a voice that certainly sounded a lot like Scarlett Johansson from the Spike Jonze film Her. And she was like, hey, you approached me and I said, we're not going to use my voice. And then this voice certainly sounds a lot like me. And I think there was also another NPR host that recently filed a lawsuit saying, some of these news podcasts certainly sound like my voice. And it just raises these questions of not only can you treat these people horribly, but then you just like have the ability to distance yourself from real people that might be able to say, hey, that's not okay. Or all these things. It feels like it's removing the humanity while reinforcing the worst parts of the way that we relate to each other.
Well, it's interesting because like I'm in dad corner today, so excuse me, but like I will use like my daughter will be like, play this right now. It's One Direction, God help me, but she'll be like, ask it to play, you know, the song, and like she thinks it's funny to like if it doesn't work, or I'll be like, oh Siri, what, and she'll like, she's like, yeah, that's like, she thinks it's funny to like not be mean to it, but to say silly things to it, right? And like I remember once, like I like she was like, "Oh, I feel bad because you yelled. You were kind of annoyed at it." I was like, "Don't feel bad for it. It's a like it's not real, right?"
It's a clanker.
Yeah, it's a clanker. But I do see how, like, if you're not, I don't know, the way that this can spill into the real world is a thing of real concern, or if it reinforces, you know, negative behavior types. Because it is hard to find that balance of like, who cares? It's a robot, and yet what is it teaching people who are around it? And kids are going to have to deal with this technology in a way that I don't think we are going to, or in the same way.
I only had Smarter Child, which was the AIM bot that was incredibly poorly coded. I mean, not poorly coded.
I don't know what this is.
It was, you could message it on AIM, AIM, AOL Instant Messenger, and it would tell you like movie times. It had a bunch of canned responses, but I spent a lot of time in like 7th grade trying to get it to say weird things. But
yeah,
kids these days truly have so many other opportunities to try
Who's
and
on
test.
Dad Corner now, Jane?
I know, I'm the dad now. There are so many ways to play with those boundaries, and I do wonder how that changes, you know, how you experience interactions when you're younger. I mean, given that we're the hometown of Amazon, do you all feel like this was born of Seattle culture in some way, or am I just reading way too much into this?
As in, like, the Seattle freeze so that people don't have to talk to anybody?
It could be one aspect of it.
Because I don't really believe in that. So I'm going to say no. I think that Seattle folks, at least the folks I hang out with, still like to talk with each other and connect. And I'm glad if folks are using this for cooking timers and such. But I also know folks that get together and cook meals together or have kind of community events like that. And I don't think this will ever replace that.
No, I think that's probably true. And I do think that, like, again, a dad corner, like, I think younger kids get more annoyed about this stuff than you think. Like, my kids will be like, put your phone down. And I'll be like, but I'm reading an article, you know, or whatever. Like, it's sort of replaced the newspaper as the, and that, I think that's positive, because I think, like, you know, kids who are 12 to 19 right now are so, pandemic kids are so stuck in the internet, and I think younger kids are a little less that way, is my reading of it.
All right, last question. What personality would your ideal voice assistant be? While you're thinking about it, I just want to throw mine out, which is I want Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Ooh, love that. Why Arnold?
I don't know if you ever encountered his newsletter. He had a newsletter. The height of the pandemic was when it was most popular. And I don't know that it was written by him, but it had all these little positive affirmations. It was like, it was Sweet Alexa
Is that
by
Arnold's
Arnold
Pump Club?
Schwarzenegger. And
Yeah, I'm
it would
still
be
subscribed to that.
nice. And it would be in his voice. And I hope that he would throw some random movie lines in there every once in a while. I think
Get
it
to
would
the
bring
chopper. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it would bring me, it's not a tumor. It would bring me joy every day. So I don't know that, Amazon or whoever, whatever company could get the licensing for that. But mostly I just want him to follow me around and be my friend.
Why not just get Arnold as your personal assistant? Let's get it
Jane,
going.
what do you
yes. Well, it's because there's going to be a 9.9% tax on my income over $1 million, Chase.
Oh yeah, you
I
can't.
won't have the
You
money
can't
for
afford it.
You got to
Yeah.
cut corners somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Because this maybe will foreshadow where something we're talking about in the second segment, but I would be very on board with Agent Dana Scully's voice as my
Ooh.
assistant. That would be fun, and I'd fall in love with her. So that would be a problem, but I'd
That'd
figure
be a
it
problem
out.
for your wife. That would be
Yeah,
brief
exactly.
Alexa, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Negging Alexa. What about you, Chase?
I don't want a personality. I don't normally not want to engage with the question, but it's like this is something where I'm like,
Come on.
You're taking a stand. I respect that, Chase.
because it's like, if you say a person, is it going to be like an approximation of that person? Is it going to be like just an imitation of them? Like, because they're not going to be able to say every single word.
It's
So
true.
if I were to do it, I would want it to be, I'll take it the fun route, the accelerationist route, where it sounds like the most robotic, cold thing you've ever heard, like a Terminator,
Oh.
even more so than Arnold. Which Terminator would be the most robotic sounding?
Original term, like
Yeah, the
1984.
T800 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be back. That one,
Yes.
That'd be
That's a good one. That's a good
Mhm.
one. All right. Well, Amazon, if you can turn either Arnold Schwarzenegger or just the T800 version of him into a voice, it seems like you might find a very niche market here.
I'll take Dana Scully still, though. Thank you.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Dana Scully and some other things. Welcome back. We are back here with Chase Hutchinson for our mostly weekly segment called Cut to the Chase, where we talk about arts news in Seattle. First thing I wanted to mention, so there is a proposal to develop the 144,000 square foot Building 2 at Magnuson Park. Have you all seen this building? It is one of the giant hangars that was originally used during World War II as a place for airplane assembly. And it was used in the 1990s and 2000s for movie productions and art exhibits, but it hasn't been used since 2010. Every time I've been past there, I've just noticed that it's not in great shape. A lot of broken windows, looking a little sad.
Who owns it?
The city, I believe.
Oh, okay. So it's just kind of undeveloped at this point.
It's definitely something that needs some work. I have also seen it, and Jane is correct in this. And I think, hopefully, without tipping too far ahead, it could find new life from what it was before as a film studio, because there's obviously a precedent for that.
Right. So there have been two different proposals in the last decade or so to try and develop that space. One of the proposals was to use it for film production. The other one, which has a little bit more buy-in, at least at this point, it seems like, the Seattle Times did a piece about this earlier this week, would be to develop it into basketball courts and athletic fields for youth sports, also to build some classrooms and workshops.
Which would also be good. Neither of these sound like bad options. Again, calling back to before, it's not like they're going to put a giant mall with fast food. These feel like the things that would serve the community well.
A 144,000 square foot Taco Bell.
Oh, God.
This is where it's all heading. Run by Alexas that sound brief.
Great. All right, moving on. Twin Peaks Day was earlier this week. I feel like Twin Peaks is like the quintessential Pacific Northwest spooky time. kind of show. News also dropped that the X-Files reboot is going to move forward. The X-Files was never really shot that much in this part of the world. I think a lot of their episodes were shot in Vancouver, but our executive producer, Ashley Smith, who is arguably the second biggest X-Files fan, maybe second to me, said that there was at least one episode that was shot in Washington. What are your thoughts on this reboot of the 90s classic?
The reboots will continue until morale improves. I actually think this could be a nice thing. Like, of all the reboots that could happen, I'm intrigued about the direction this is going. I would love to see it shoot entirely in Washington.
Please.
Or come back more. Because with what you were saying, not to go back too far with the Twin Peaks day, I did talk to Kyle MacLachlan for a piece in the Seattle Times this week. And the thing I was thinking about while talking to him is potentially without Twin Peaks, he would have never had any sort of like path forward. And there are many crew folks that show had a big impact on with the late David Lynch at the helm. And so I would love to see maybe this new resurgence of shows coming here from olds.
Ryan Coogler, come shoot here. It's
exactly
spooky. It's the right environment.
Spooky. Yeah, no, I'm optimistic. I really hope that what they don't do is turn it into like that show is amazing for being like monster of the week, and then, you know, the first and last episodes of the season building into a larger mythology, and that was just so satisfying as a TV show that I hope that it retains that kind of like structure. The actress that's being mentioned is Danielle Deadwyler, who's really, really quite a good actress. And yeah, I do feel like Vancouver as a shooting location, or the larger region, that was kind of the first time I ever heard about that. So it would be cool for them to bring it back. And I will not be mad if we get Mulder and Scully cameos.
See, here's the thing. Why not just start a new thing that isn't the X-Files? I just feel like it isn't the X-Files without Mulder and Scully.
I think what you need to do is make it so weird and so strange that you alienate all of the fans of the original. You pull a Twin Peaks The Return. You make it very like tied to the thing, but just go in your own direction.
That's not what this is going to be. I'd hate to say it, but
no. All right.
My expectations...
I agree with you. I agree with you, Jane. There could always be more original things, but people can still do creative things with reboots and reimaginings. We'll see.
I am excited to see what they do with it. I also feel like the moment that we're in as a society is just completely different than in the 90s. Like you mentioned, Liam, the show often bounced between Monster of the Week and these more mythology episodes where you get to see this shadowy government conspiracy to hide aliens. That is just somehow less charming and fun in 2026 than it felt in 1996.
Well,
I don't know
conspiracy
if that
theories
holds up.
were fringe, then now they're not, in the news. So it's like,
yeah,
that's a good point. I mean, I would really prefer it be like a Monster of the Week kind of show rather than like a larger mythology. And there have been like imitators of the show and even reboots of the show that I would say were not very successful. But Ryan Coogler knows what he's doing. He really knows how to infuse like science fiction monster horror with like real world issues and things that are interesting. So I'm sure they're taking that into consideration.
After two very disappointing X-Files reboots, my heart can't take a third bad one. So Ryan Coogler, please do a good job. That's all I have to say about that. Chase, I understand, to close things out today, that you have a little bit of gossip for us as a treat.
I would say it is a treat because I think it's a very interesting piece. Not so much gossip, because I think it is a very even-handed look at like the realities of production. And I know we've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but I have a piece in the Inlander about train dreams that I would encourage folks to go read, and won't like read through it here to everyone. But it is essentially about how this production, that is kind of a big calling card for the region, something everyone is very excited about as an awards contender, began with a bit of a rough plane landing.
Oh.
And
Yikes.
Thankfully everyone was okay.
Good.
But it also then was something that a lot of folks told me was one of the hardest productions they've worked on. Someone compared it to being their Apocalypse Now.
Oof.
I don't know whether we'll ever get our own Hearts of Darkness look at what that is, which was basically a documentary made about Coppola's Apocalypse Now.
As good as Apocalypse Now, frankly.
It's fantastic.
Incredible.
But it essentially was a piece where I was trying to talk to lots of folks and ended up talking to many, many crew about this is something that was beautifully made, really remarkable, and they pulled it off. But it's also a tough process to make a movie, no matter what movie it is. But this one in particular, folks said really had a lot of heavy lifts, that it was like building the plane as they were flying it along. But they did it. But
also the plane landing itself was bumpy.
Yeah, that was a challenging start for a lot of folks. But they rolled with it. They rolled with the punches. They kept moving forward. Thankfully, that didn't derail things. But I would encourage folks to go read it. Because it's something I've been working on for a bit. And I think people will be talking about more as Oscar voting opens today. And it's a contender. And I think this is part of the story of that film's production.
Well, give us a little bit of a preview. What were besides a rough plane landing, which, whew, that sounds harrowing, what other difficulties were they experiencing on set?
A lot of really kind of challenging lifts into pulling off the artistic vision. This was a film with a decent budget, but not a huge budget. A lot of it on location, very remote, dealing with real life fires, real life cold weather, and having to do all the things that when you see in a film, you don't think about, but create infrastructure around things, build huge structures, deal with kind of an evolving kind of improvisational shooting style. Lots of interesting details that pay off in the film, but when you were in it, it's tough. You never know if like what you're doing is fully going to pay off. People had a sense that they did when they talked to me, but it still is one of those things where every day was a new challenge that folks had to overcome. And it's a testament to the Washington crew that they did it.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen that movie, you know that a lot of it was shot deep in forests, and I imagine that it was no small feat to even just get out there.
Yeah,
in the first place.
they had to build roads to some of these locations.
Oh, dang.
Where they essentially had like a base camp and then the actual production, which then just adds a lot of time.
Right.
And some of this is like common for film productions, for better and worse, in terms of like long hours of having to drive things out in a way that people have been talking about for a long time. But for Washington, this was a big step up for a lot of folks, and they rose to the occasion.
Interesting. All right, well, folks, go check out Chase's piece in The Inlander. And Chase, thank you so much for bringing that to us.
Thank you so much for having me, as always.
And Liam, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. I'm your host, Jane Sihu. And listeners, remember that we always love hearing from you all. Send us your hot goss or very measured
Your plane landing stories.
Yeah. Your news tips, your questions, your thoughts on what should go in that old Rite Aid on Capitol Hill by sending an email to seattle@citycast.fm. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail at 206-880-3931. I also wanted to shout out our CityCast Seattle neighbors. Thank you all so much for joining us and for your support. We've got Anna Marie M., Charlotte J., Kathy B., Karen E., Kyle L., Angela C., Kirk A., and Tara R. Thank you again so much. We're so excited to have you guys on board and to see you at our first member event. Details about that will be coming to you soon. Until next time, see ya, Seattle.